Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say at the beginning of every podcast, it is purely selfish reason why I record this because I get to speak to inspirational guests. And today, I'm so excited for this one. Welcome, Cath Allard, to the show. How are you, my lovely?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. So we're just discussing, you've just changed your business name, kind of. So you're now under Catherine Allard Nutrition.
I am, yes.
But you've been known as the seasoned mom as well, haven't you?
I
So
have, yeah. That's
yeah,
it.
so you're all over social media, kind of giving busy mums nutritional advice, which is why I wanted you on, because I believe that this society is massively overwhelmed and food is just something that we grab.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So how did you get into this? Because you've had your own journey, haven't you?
Yeah, so the actual food side, so I've been a chef for many years. I've been a chef since I was 17. I was very fortunate to work into some of the best restaurants in the UK. But it wasn't really until I had my own children that I realized just how hard it was looking after somebody else, feeding somebody else. And I think for me, I think the one thing as a new parent that got pushed to the back was food, because I just got swept up with being so busy and everything else. I just stopped eating normal, like a normal human. So as a chef, I didn't really eat like a normal human anyway, because you grab
Yeah.
and go when you can. There's no real set breaks. You're on your feet for 16 hours, so it's very different. So then when I literally stopped that and had my son, I was like, I didn't know what to do anymore. The food kind of got pushed to the back, and it was only really when I started weaning my son and I realized actually I've got to set an example for him, because he was starting to turn everything down. And I do believe it was because I was kind of not right there. But I think everybody falls into that trap, really, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Life's
So
not good.
now I own a whole business. I've lost 6 stone. And that a lot of that was just by putting more focus on my strategies around food, and just learning to say, actually, no, that is a really important part of my life, of my children's lives, for their development, physically and mentally, and for my own as well. But it took a lot to get there, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I think, when people think about changing what they eat, they think they have to change everything. And you did a really good video, actually. I think it was only a couple of days ago, where you were cooking. You was like cooking normal food. You were like, I was having to grab this, and it's okay to do that, but not all the time. And I think that's a thing, isn't it? It's like people see it as this massive change that they've got to do, so they can't sustain like that kind of change.
Yeah, 100%. I think even for me, like, there's a lot of all or nothing mentality in
Yeah.
cooking. And I think it's because, there's so much information out there. We're not really sure as a culture what we should and shouldn't be eating, because somebody's already always telling us whatever we're doing is wrong. And so then what we try and do is we go, right, I'm going to be better. And then, like you said, we'll try and scratch cook everything, which is fantastic. But I've not got time, to be making pastry from scratch and things like that. So you just end up then, you'll maybe give it a go for 2 or 3 nights and then just go, this isn't for me. I am too busy. Somebody will have a rugby match or a football match, and you'll just become so overwhelmed with everything else you've got to do. And then instead of going, oh, well, how can I fix it? Usually we just go, oh, we're going to go to takeaway. Because it's just
Yeah.
another thing we have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you see it everywhere at the minute. It's like supermarkets have put all the processed quick stuff towards the front. It's very crafty how they do it, isn't it?
So I used to work for a manufacturing company. So everything in that supermarket, no matter where it is placed there for a very particular reason. Like, people don't realize that even, where your tins of beans are on the shelf, they're placed on those in those locations for a reason. And everything in a supermarket really is aimed at selling to you. They don't
Yeah.
really care about your health. I know that sounds really harsh, but they
It's
don't.
true.
They
It's
care
true
about their
though.
profit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's really, I feel like for the whole food system in the UK, not just in the UK, in other countries as well, I do think it's kind of twofold. I think, you can go on about personal responsibility a lot, but I think some of the responsibility does lie on the manufacturers, on the big guys making the money, because they don't make it easy.
No, they don't. And do you find as well, that a lot of stuff is labeled as healthy, and actually it's not.
Yeah, so the a big one at the moment is the protein trend. So obviously we've all, as a culture, we've come to learn that protein is actually really essential for us. And, you know, it's being promoted left, right, and center, which is fantastic. I agree that everybody should be having a big amount of protein. But then you'll see so many products on the supermarkets that are now pushing protein on us. And then when you actually look into the nitty-gritty of the product, it's either full of
Mm.
fillers or stabilizers or something that we wouldn't normally go for, or they've just basically whacked a load of protein powder on top of an already existing product and gone, here's £5 extra for this product. So it's really sad to see, you know, it's calculated, but it's really sad to see, because if you're not aware of what they're doing, I mean, you walk into a supermarket and go, right, okay, well, I'm going to have this, protein's healthy for me, I'm going to take it. You know, if we're
Yeah,
not trained in this, it's really difficult to spot. And sometimes, you know, with the health claims on front of packs, source of fiber, high in protein, things like that, it can be really difficult to spot what's actually going to be really beneficial for us and the ones that are just gimmicks.
that's it. I mean, they get away with a lot, and it's very clever marketing, isn't it?
Yes, there's a whole department behind it. Yes.
Yeah, I get that. And then that's where the neuroscience comes in, because it's like that people look at that, and and it's very sad, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, some of the places I worked, you have like a category analysis, and they do a lot of that based on the neuroscience. So it's all based on how people eat, when they cook, when they shop, how their parents did that. That's what I was saying about the calculations, and even where your tins of beans are. That has been placed there through all of that research. It's not random. So that's why, like Pancake Day, for example, right at the front of your shop, you'll see all the pancake stuff,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they want you to buy it. They'll throw it on extra, 50% off, because they want you to buy it. It's really clever.
yeah. And you'll hear a lot of people go, well, I go and buy the easy stuff that you can just chuck in the microwave or something, because buying fresh stuff is dear. You hear that a
Yeah,
lot. Is that
yeah.
true?
To a degree, yes. So for me, it's more about shelf life. So if you go into the supermarket and buy a frozen packet of chicken nuggets, they're gonna last in your freezer a lot longer than a sweet potato would. Now they're very different products, but for pound, they will potentially be cheaper, and less time consuming as well, just banging them in the air fryer, as opposed to having to stand and chop and then, marinate and then roast and things like that. I think the problem we've got is we're seeing more and more manufactured products that are super, super cheap and that don't go off as quick. So people are relying on them as a source of food. And you can't blame them. Now, the problem that supermarkets have is because the farming is expensive these days, and everything else with the cost of living just going through the roof, they don't actually make much money on the fresh stuff. So they have to
Right.
put a smaller markup on it. So that's why they'll never push it to you. Because they don't make much money on it. Whereas the manufacturer stuff, a lot of that takes pennies to make, and they can, obviously charge pounds for it because they're made in big, 820 kilo vats.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the big difference between them. I think if you was to, especially for an average family of four, for example, if you was probably to say pound for pound, which is cheaper, unfortunately, I would say, eating healthier. If you were just going to go 100% whole foods, it probably would be a little bit more expensive, yeah. So I do feel like we need to have, because I don't want to come across as though I'm scaring everybody out of the supermarkets. I do feel like we need to have that really good balance, but it's ultimately about giving the knowledge to the people so they can make the choice for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is a society thing, and it's like you only know what you know, right?
100%.
And you can go onto Google, like you said before, there's that much information out there. It can actually be very overwhelming and quite confusing as well.
100%. And I think it's really sad now that even in schools and education, we're not being taught this. I mean, I get a lot of mums come to me really upset, especially if their child has, particularly fussy eating habits or something, or, maybe they've got particularly fussy eating habits, but usually we are passed down whoever's raised us, whoever we are around more of, we are passed down our eating habits from them, from social, where we live, all that kind of stuff. Nobody anymore comes into our lives and goes, this is how to do it. And I think it's that. So I always say to people, don't put so much pressure on yourself because it's a skill like everything else. If you don't know, you only know what you know. So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you don't know, then it's just time we learn about it.
yeah, absolutely. And then I hear a lot of mums, you know, because I get to speak to a lot of ladies that, you know, one child will like that, the husband have gone vegan or something. So it's like you're trying to cook like 5 different dishes in one night. Do you find that a lot as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's probably the most frustrating part because, you know, if you take the time element away from it, most people don't mind standing in the kitchen and cooking a meal. The frustrating part comes when you serve that meal and then you've got the son who won't eat anything but carrots, you know, the daughter who won't eat anything. We had a phase with our son where he would only eat chicken and strawberry yogurt. That was it. He didn't
Right,
eat anything else. So, you know, trying to cook for us all. And like you said, if mum and dad have, you know, a lot of people are getting into fitness nowadays. It's a huge trend. So if you've got mum and dad maybe training for a high rocks or doing something else and they have a specific diet, it's then how do we fit the children into that? So if you've got 5 different palettes, it can become really frustrating.
yeah, quite, yeah, trying to please everybody, isn't it? So
100%.
how do you even start to deal with that?
So we have a couple of techniques. The one that probably works the most, if the children are just particularly fussy, we get families to sit down and talk openly about food because again, it's not a discussion most families have. Usually, you know, the mum or dad will have a set of 20 recipes and then just start banging them out in front of the kids. The kids will say no, and then it's a big headache. So what we do is we get each family member to write at least 10 ideas down what they like to eat, and it can be absolutely anything. You know, even if when we did it, my daughter was like pizza, chicken nuggets, like that's okay to have them on the
Yeah,
menu
yeah,
because what we say is if you're willing to eat their food, they're more willing to eat your food. And you know, if you're saying, well, I don't really want to be serving them chicken nuggets or pizza, you can make your own. Like if you're happy to get them out of a box, get them out of a box. No one is judging. You know, like it's what works for you as a family. So we get people to sit down, write out their ideas, and then start going through like how are we going to serve this. So if children are particularly fussy, we start with the blended method. So you can blend vegetables into things to make it appear though they're not on there. We will still keep trying that child on vegetables at the sides. We never want to disguise anything really, but it's just a little bit of peace of mind for the parent to say, well, actually, whilst we're going through this phase, because all children go through a fussy eating phase,
yeah, yeah,
um, whilst that we are going through this phase, I know they are still getting some fiber, some vitamins inside their bodies, you know, without them knowing. So that's kind of what we do, just as a little peace of mind. And that works really, really well as a starting point.
yeah. I love that. Now you talk a lot about meal planning as well.
Yeah,
This is a game changer.
it sure is.
Yeah. So how do you start with that? Because I can remember when because I meal plan now, just because you know life's so hectic. But I can remember when I first started going right, and what I need to meal plan. I completely freaked out that I needed like hundreds of recipes so that I wasn't having the same all the time, and that then I get bored. But actually, you don't do it like that, do you?
No. So there's a fun meal planning itself changes lives. It really does. And I know that sounds really like out there to say, but it really does. Because like I said, a lot of time the stress doesn't come from cooking itself. It comes from all the organization that goes around it. And so the way we get families to meal prep is to do the same thing. So first of all, everybody has to be involved. You know, there is such a thing. I'm a big believer as the mental load of the household, and typically it is one person that falls to, whether it be the wife, the husband, you know, whatever that partnership looks like, it's usually one person. So
Mm-hmm.
we try and do this as a family unit as a whole, because at the end of the day, everybody needs to eat. And if you're teaching your children this at a really young age, it's really going to benefit them as they grow older. So we get the method where the families sit down, they all put 10 ideas into the mix, but the bit that everybody seems to miss is their schedule. And I'll say this till I am blue in the face. It is pointless putting Everybody might like a chicken roast dinner, but we can't serve it on a Wednesday when it takes 2 hours to cook and you've got to be back out within an hour of coming in from work. So you need to really know your schedule. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a day by day planner. Your schedule might look different. For me as a family, it looks like we have a family calendar. We have a little rota, a weekly rota, so we know, when football is, when kickboxing is, when cricket is, all that kind of stuff. And we choose meals depending on how much time we have available. So, for example, on a Monday night, we have around 45 minutes from getting in from school, getting changed, homework, putting a load of washing in after work, having dinner, and getting out. Now, 45 minutes is not a lot of time. If I hadn't have meal
Mm.
planned, I'd have been hitting McDonald's,
Yeah,
Chinese, anything, Subway, a pasty from
yeah,
Greg's, anything just to keep them fed so I don't feel bad that they've not ate. And we lived like that for a long time. But now, so I know on a Monday, actually, if I put something in the slow cooker in the morning, when they come home, it's all ready. I don't have to wait. I just have to serve it while they're getting, changed into the whatever uniform they've got. They can have the dinner and do the homework at the same time, and then we're back out, put everything in the dishwasher. So it's really about understanding that. And
yeah,
then if you want to take it one step further, I then group meals into that. So for example, all of my slow cooker meals will sit on a Monday. On a Tuesday is usually a pasta dish because it takes me 15 minutes, or, a 15-minute air fryer dish. And we kind of go from there. Any new meals that we try, we do try a new recipe once a week just to keep a new recipe in the mix because we like trying new foods. And we do that on a night where we have loads of time so that if we don't like the food, we have a backup plan. Like, we don't want to be going, oh my gosh, we've made all of this and we don't like it. Now we've got to eat. That's just so stressful.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I also wanted to ask you about like meal prep
Yes. Big
because
buzzword.
I'll be really honest with you, right? And I know there's some people that agree with me. Some people absolutely smash it.
Yeah.
But and you see people on Instagram where they open the fridge up and they've got like a week's meal prep, like for lunches and whatnot. And they've spent all day on the Sunday doing it. Right, my head, I'll be really honest, I'll hold my hands up. It's like I am not using my day off to make a load of meals for the week.
Agreed.
Oh, thank God for that, right?
Agreed. This
At these people on Instagram, what the fucking hell are they doing this? Like, what is it? And like, you see all the fridges. Like,
yeah.
now I would love to meal prep, and I know there's a few people as well that are going to be listening to this going, logically, that's what I want to do. It'll save me time, especially lunches at work. Like, that's where people struggle because it's very easy, like you say, to go and get Greg's and a Subway and everything like that. So, what's the best way to meal prep where you're not wasting a whole day of your week, every time off, organising your week's meal prep?
Agreed. So I've said this for a very long time. I am a chef and I love cooking, but I couldn't think of anything worse than pulling an 8-hour shift in my own kitchen. Like, my children wouldn't allow that. Life doesn't allow that.
No.
You see these people getting up at 5:30 on a Sunday morning. They're still going at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, no. So first of all, I think meal prep is such a big buzzword. I think you need to find the right way for you. And it will look different depending on your circumstances. So, for example, if you are a shift worker and you're working 12-hour shifts back to back, it's probably beneficial for you to prep your entire day, whilst you are on these shifts, because the last thing you want to do when you get home from work is start cooking. However, if you're a family of 4 or 5 or 6, you might just want to go for lunches. You might have the time to do breakfast and then you might do some slow cooker dinners. It really does depend. So we have this inside of our group, we have a 90-minute meal prep. And it's basically where I help and show people how to get it done in 90 minutes. And it does, it varies. You can get it done in as little as 30 minutes. It just depends on the level of detail you want. So if you just wanted to go for lunches or something like that, then I would definitely utilize a slow cooker and the air fryer, or a pressure cooker if you have one. So again, it's about picking meals that are very similar. So I might put a big batch of bolognese on, for example, and I'd be like, right, okay. So for Monday lunch, I'm going to cook 8 portions of bolognese. I'm going to put it in the slow cooker on a Sunday morning. I'm going to let it cook all day Sunday, and I'm just going to portion it up into 8 when it's cooked. So I've got eight days worth of food. Some of it will go in the freezer, some of it will sit in the fridge. Now, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that sounds idyllic, but I don't want to be eating bolognese for 8 days. So what we
Yeah.
do is we start changing the food as we're going along. So on the Monday, I might have just a bit of pasta and a bit of cheese and have a spaghetti bolognese. But then on the Tuesday, I'll take one of those bolognese portions and I might put some kidney beans in it and some rice with it, a little bit of cumin and some chili powder, and all of a sudden now I've now got a chili, like a chili con carne. On the Wednesday, I'll do the same thing, but instead of turning it into chili, I might put it in a wrap with some cheese on it and a bit of salsa and avocado, and now it's a quesadilla. Like it makes me feel like I'm having different things every day. I don't have to faff. It's still a 5-minute lunch when I want to come and eat it. But and because I've prepped it in the slow cooker in the first place, it's taken me 5 minutes to put the ingredients in the slow cooker. I've kind of walked away and done my own thing, and it's taken me 10 minutes to portion it out at the end. That's typically how we do it in our household. We do it for me, my husband, and my son who takes packed lunches to school. You know, you could do breakfast the same thing. It just depends. And there's nothing to say that you have to do a full week's worth as well. I mean, if I'm doing something like overnight oats, I don't know if you've ever tried to prep 5 days worth of overnight oats, but
Yeah, don't
oh no, come day 4, I'm like, oh, I can't eat any more oats. So what I do is I'll prep 2 or 3 days. So it takes 5-10 minutes to prep oats. I'll prep 3 days, and then on the third day I'll think, do I need that for tomorrow? And if I do, that's fine. I'll spend an extra 10 minutes at dinner time. Okay, this is really important. I never ever have my dinner clear up and then go, I need to make packed lunches. I couldn't think of anything worse. If I was going to make a packed lunch, I'd make it whilst I was cooking dinner because it just makes sense. I've got everything out anyway.
Yeah.
So I'll do 3 days and then I'll put it in the fridge. And then the next day I might, meal prep 2 bagels. Or meal prep can be anything though. It doesn't have to be complete meals. I mean, on the weeks where I'm really rushed, I'll literally get some chicken. I'll slice it up, marinate it in maybe some Cajun or some barbecue. If the children are having it, then I'll just put it with some garlic, some oregano, and some smoked paprika, bang it in the air fryer for 15 minutes, and then I'll take a packet of rice and then I'll add that to it. And I'll take some bags of salad and I'll add that to it, and I maybe put some avocado or some salsa or something just to flavour that dish up. So it really does depend on A, how much work you're willing to put in, but B,
Yeah.
what you actually want. Do you know what I mean? Because you can make
Yeah.
the most elaborate meal plans and you could spend 8 hours doing it, but I guarantee you'll get halfway through that week and go, do you know what? It really wasn't worth it.
Yeah. Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah.
I bet, right, sitting here listening to you, I bet you've saved quite a few marriages.
Yeah,
Do you know what?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse, right? When you come home from a long day at work and you go, "What do you fancy for tea?" and they go, "Don't know." It's always up to you. What do you
Yeah.
want? Women all the time go, "I'm sick of hearing that." So
Yeah.
this kind of squashes that, doesn't it?
100%. And if there's any ever this is what I was saying about the mental loads. It's always one parent. They're responsible for taking the kids to school, or even something as simple as school. They send me at least 5 messages a day reminding me of something. So you've got to take that on board. You've
Yeah.
got your own job to do. You've got the fact that the house is never tidy because the children don't seem to be able to put anything away. You've got so much mental load through the day. Something as little as what we having for tea can really set you off. Really
Yes.
set you off. And for me as well, it saves arguments with the kids, because if we've ever made a meal and put it in front of them, they've gone, I don't want that. I said, well, excuse me, you said it was okay to put it on the meal plan, so we're having this tonight and tomorrow it's your meal. And they go, oh yeah. So like, it's not all, oh, well, you're just eating it, crack on, kind of thing. So yeah, it really does save a lot of aggro.
Yeah. And you're so right about women. Like, we have a lot to deal with. And, food does become a problem. And if you think about it, like it's natural for us to eat, but we've made this big problem with it where it affects our health because food has massively been linked to like things like ADHD in children, a lot of gut problems, and it's just awful. The modern world just doesn't support health, does it?
It really doesn't know. Like, you know, when you look at the systems we've got in place in the UK, like we said, the food system, the manufacturing system, nothing about it screams health. It actually, in my opinion, makes it harder for you to eat better. And this is kind of the fight we have. You know, like I said, we can talk about personal responsibility all day long. And I do feel like you can take ownership of your own health. You know, plenty of people do it. However, society doesn't make it easy for you, and I do think that's a real shame, because we shouldn't live in that type of world.
No, I mean, it's like I was saying to somebody the other day. It's like growing up, we had McDonald's, probably Pizza Hut, KFC, but now you look round, like every street is full of takeaways and fast food. So it
Yeah.
just screams that there's a need for it. Otherwise, these companies wouldn't survive.
100%. And I think, you know, with the things like the inventions of Deliveroo and Uber Eats and things like that, even little things I didn't even know, this is how behind I am, but I didn't even know you could Deliveroo like the Tesco Express nowadays, like the Spar shops. You can
Can you?
deliver them now, yeah. You can get like groceries delivered in an hour. It is mental. And although I think some elements of it is really helpful, so you know, I'm a big believer in online shopping, and when we're doing the Tesco food shop, things like that, it really shaves time off and it stops you having the meltdown with the toddler in the middle of the supermarket. But I do think that the fact that we know this and we are so connected to our phones, and then our phones are then connected to, you know, all these takeaways, it does make it really easy to just go, oh, do you know what? I don't need to focus on this. I think until, and especially for myself, until it really did become a problem.
Yeah, I think, as humans, we'll always go for the easier option, which is why I love what you do, because you show people how simple it actually is, and
Yeah.
but humans will still try and overcomplicate it, even though it's simple, right?
Yeah, I think I have the answer to that as well. I think because a lot of the time it's boring. Like unless you're a
Mm,
big food nut and you absolutely love experimenting, most people don't. Most people do not like cooking. We do it as a survival mode to eat and live well. And it does get boring. And I think that's the hard bit for people to grasp. It's a lot of work for very little reward. Obviously, you get the rewards in the health and things later on, but when you're just starting out on this journey, you don't see anything massively straight away. I mean, you take a fat loss journey, for example, you could be doing the same thing every day for at least a month or two before you start seeing any change. So I think this is the hardest part. But I feel like once you do get that change and your energy levels go up and your children aren't as angry and you feel like you're not shouting at everyone, I call it a dinosaur mum, you know, where you're just roaring at everybody. I was that person for it and
yeah,
still am sometimes, you know, for a very long time. So when you see those benefits come, I think it's easy for people to go, okay, the food really helped this side, let's go back to it. But sometimes it takes a while to get there. And I think that's why so many people, and like I said, if you add that in then with society and Deliveroo, it just becomes another overwhelm that we kind of have to do.
yeah. So, how much weight did you say you've lost?
So I've lost just over 6 stone so far. Yeah.
So, was that the aim when you very first started this? Was that the aim, or was the food the aim, and then the weight was kind of like a side effect?
I think it was a little bit of both. So after I had my second daughter, um, and it was COVID lockdown, and I wasn't in a very good mental health state, if I'm honest. There was a lot of feelings and things coming up that I didn't even know I had. I had postnatal depression after my daughter, which it went undiagnosed because of COVID and things like that.
Yeah,
So I was really like stuck. And you know, just when you look at yourself sometimes and you just think you're not the person you used to be, physically and mentally, I wasn't that person. So I think for me, it was I think I felt more guilty when I had my daughter, and I think it's because, not to disregard my son at all, but I think it's because I see a lot of me in her. We're
yeah,
very similar characters. And I remember just thinking, if I don't sort my own stuff out with all of this, she is going to end up like this. And at the time I was a big binge eater. I'm quite open about my story, that to the point where I was pretending I hadn't ate so I could eat more because it was giving me the comfort. I probably just needed a hug, but I didn't know that at the
mm,
time. So I was putting all this food in, and I remember thinking, I am going to have to start weaning a second child soon if they start looking at my habits, they're going to end up in my position. And the biggest fear for me was my daughter turning around and saying, what have you done? Like, what have
Yeah,
you done to me? And it was so sad. So initially it was like, well, I want to sort everybody's health out so that we all feel better. I want to be able to keep up with the kids. You know, I want to be able to not be that mum has to sit down every 5 minutes, because some parts of my son's childhood, that was me. I would throw the ball to him, but I'd have to sit down a little bit because I just wasn't fit enough to play. So I think it was looking at it as a whole. And then as I kind of started losing the weight, I was like, okay, this is getting easier. And then I think you just end up on that big snowball of like, you're feeling better, they're feeling better, the household mood is better. You know, my husband, the way my relationship with my husband completely changed because I was feeling better. We weren't snapping at each other anymore. So I think it just snowballed from there. But I think no matter what your goal is, I think just starting in itself is a real big achievement.
yeah, that's absolutely it. And what would your best advice be to start to take that first step?
Just meet yourself where you're at. So don't
Uh,
choose one thing and let's overcome that first. Like, we don't need to overhaul our entire lives
Yeah,
to make this
yeah,
happen. What we do need to do is have a really honest conversations with ourselves, see where we're at. So are you ordering takeaway 5 and 6 times a week? We totted up one night, and this is kind of was the change for us. We'd spent £600 on on takeaways in 3 weeks. And me and my husband looked at each other and was like, what are we doing? Like this, you know, our food shop on average nowadays is 150 to £200. And I was like, we're still buying that food, by the way. We're still doing those regular shops, but then we were adding all this extra money on. You know, if you take the health thing at the size, we were like, oh my gosh. So I think definitely just seeing where you're at. If that's where you are, then that's fine. How do we come out of that? You know, start looking at your schedule. Start saying, well, I'm going to make sure I'm cooking at least 4 times a week. Cooking, by the way, doesn't have to mean, I think when people hear the term cooking, they think making pasta from fresh, having, you know,
yes,
being, yeah, being like a scratch cook and things like that. But honestly, using the air fryer and banging a bit of chicken in it, you know, using the slow cooker and just banging a really simple recipe in it is enough to get you started.
yeah. Do you get your kids involved in the cooking?
Yes, 100%. So my son, yeah, I'm a bit of a nut from this. I think my son at the beginning didn't really like this, but he does now, to be fair. Yes, I'm a big believer that and this is something we do inside of the season mum method. It is we have to, because I think you're giving them that life skill. You know, we were saying before about nobody teaches us. Well, how great would it be if you could be the one to teach them? Because the problems that we're facing now, I believe it's only going to get worse. There's only going to get more manufacturing. You know, you've now got healthy brands coming out with recipe takeaways and things like that. It's only going to go like that in the future. And I do believe cooking will become a dying art. So I think the more you can teach them, the bigger the life skill they have. Even little things like when they go away to university, they'll know how to look after the body. And I think it goes hand in hand with exercise and things like that. But yeah, I think at the beginning it was very testing. I had to trial a lot of methods. I'm not going to lie, I wasn't used to having somebody so young in the kitchen making a mess, and I was like, oh my gosh. But no, it's been a real good. Quite proud, to be fair, of him, of how far he's come, and we're just on that journey with the littlest one as well.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. And I suppose it because a lot of people see cooking as a chore as well. I do hear quite
Yeah,
a few people saying that they don't like cooking,
yeah.
so they'll order takeaway. So it has become like a chore that we don't need to do. It's that kind of mentality, isn't it? So how do you go from not enjoying cooking, seeing it as a chore, to actually something that you don't mind?
Yeah, I think this is a really tough one because I don't think you can make anybody particularly enjoy it. I think what you can do is become confident in it. So some people disregard not liking it because they won't be particularly confident in it. And again, it's because we're not really taught this stuff. I mean, I think my high school introduction of food was making a fruit salad. Like, it was
Yeah,
nothing to set
mine
me up.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A fruit salad, a bolognese, and an all day breakfast.
And
It
yeah,
wasn't.
I had a sausage casserole in there as well. which was sausage and beans. That's basically what he wanted.
That's it. I
Nothing
mean,
fancy.
I don't know if it's changed yet. My son's about to go to the high school, so I'm about to find out. But yeah, so it doesn't really set us up. So I think definitely having a handful, 10 to 15 recipes that you'll back up, you love them, they don't take you long. And I think in our society nowadays, with the invention of the air fryer and the slow cooker and the pressure cooker, we can do that in very minimal time now. So I think just having that in your arsenal, kind of, I
Yeah,
think that'll really help you going forward.
because you can do quite a lot in an air fryer, can't you?
Yeah, we made stir fry in it the other night, like noodles, egg
Ah,
fried rice. You can make curry in it. Like it's amazing what you can make in it, and it's what I like about it. It's kind of like one pot, so you literally it saves so much washing up. I made a curry the other night. I put some chicken, I marinated it in some spices, chicken and onions and veg in there, and then I put some creme fraiche in there, and then more spices, and I pretty much made a tikka masala in 15 minutes. And I was like, and then I got a packet of rice out because I'm not cooking rice from scratch. That is the one thing I won't do. Bang it in the microwave, and I was like, you know what? This is all right. And then washing up, I've got one pot and something I've put in the microwave and our plates, and that's enough for me.
oh wow, yeah. Because you often a lot of people just go, well, you can cook chips in it, and you can put like chicken Kievs in it or something. But there is like literally like you see them all over Instagram, like people making all sorts in them.
100%. I remember I had this conversation with somebody. They were well into the 70s, and he said to me, "My wife's bought an air fryer," and I was like, "Oh, brilliant! What have you made?" And he just went, "Pie and chips," and he was like, "I don't know what else to cook," and I was like, "It's okay, I can help you." And we did. We went round and we did some stuff with his wife, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's like having an oven and a hob all in one." I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
welcome to cooking."
yeah.
It was amazing.
Because it's very misleading because it
Yeah.
shows you that you can buy like frozen chips and frozen stuff, and like you just have to that you take 15 minutes off your cooking time that you use in oven. So
Yeah.
people still tend to buy the frozen stuff to use in the
Yeah.
air fryer,
Yes.
which is a bit misleading, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think to be honest with you, I was the same. So I was very late to the air fryer game. My mum got an air fryer and she kept telling me about it. And I was like, but we did at the time we didn't really eat chips or anything like that. We're a lot like pasta and rice type of family. So I was like, well, I don't need one. If I want chips, I'll just bang them in the oven. Like, and it was stressing me out that she kept going on about this air fryer. And then I actually bought a pressure cooker, and that's what I wanted. And because I thought, cooking risotto in 5 minutes appealed to me, and I wanted to test if it was true, if I'm honest with you.
Right.
So I bought this pressure cooker, and as part of this pressure cooker, it was like a multi-cooker, and it had an air fryer function. So because it was brand new, and we wanted to test it. We did. We cut up some potatoes and put it straight in, and we was like, oh my gosh, this is done in like 10 minutes, and they're dead crispy, and they're the best bloody potatoes I've ever ate. And it was just amazing. And I think then from there we did start to really experiment with it. And we were like, even me as somebody who has played around with food since the age of 17, even I was really impressed with the functionalities of it.
So you use it a lot then?
Every day. I think I very rarely use my hob. I think my hob is only used for things like porridge oats nowadays,
Right.
and my oven is used for pizza that won't fit in the air fryer, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, pizza would be a bit of a problem actually thinking about
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
that's it. Sometimes we make those pizza wraps. It's not too bad if you make them out of a pita bread because they'll fit in the air fryer beautifully. But trying to get a wrap in there is not, yeah, not as a whole thing. It's not great.
You see, so that's a really simple solution for everybody that hasn't got time.
100%. Yeah, I think if you're struggling with time, I would, and there's not a lot of gadgets. I mean, I see so many kitchen gadgets out there that
Yeah.
I just think are a waste of money. But I definitely think the three that I would have top of my priority is the slow cooker, is the air fryer, and a pressure cooker. But I understand a pressure cooker is quite expensive and you have to kind of change the way you're cooking it. So not everybody will venture over to that. But if time is a real big issue, it's worth learning that skill. Because like I said, you can make pasta in 5 minutes. You can make a risotto in 5 minutes. Traditionally a risotto takes 50 minutes to make. It opens up the possibilities for you without you having to really do much.
Right. I've never used a pressure cooker, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, do you know what's really funny is I'd only ever use them in commercial kitchens for things
Right.
like beef bourguignon and things that you need to cook really quickly in a small amount of time, things that you usually would take 10, 12 hours. And somebody else actually recommended it to me. They said, have you never used a pressure cooker? And I was like, yeah, but not at home. And they were like, I suggest you start experimenting. And that's what I did. I went out and bought this. It's a Ninja multi cooker, and it just changed my life. Like I said, it is a big investment, so I don't say everybody should go out and rush, and you do have to learn how to use it, because for it to work, it's basically cooked under pressure. So you have to have enough liquid in there. That liquid then turns to steam. It cooks under pressure, and then that's how you get your food. So you do have to learn measurements and things like that. Because even for me, it took me a little while to get the ratios right. But I do think it's a worthwhile. If you wanted to go, do you know what? If I'm really struggling, that's kind of where
Yeah.
I'd venture towards.
So have you ever done a cake in your air fryer?
I haven't, no. I'm not much of a baker, if I'm honest with you. I'll leave that to my mum. She is a far better baker than I ever will be.
Yeah, I keep seeing them like come out on social media. I'm like, is that really done in an air fryer? That's, and I was like, no, they've cheated on that. They must have done.
I've done crumbles in an air fryer. We did. But to be fair, we've done like overnight, like baked oats and things like that. But I wouldn't really call them a cake anyway. Like a traditional cake, no. But it's definitely worth giving it a go. I've seen loads of people who've done it.
And you always see on the air fryer groups on Facebook people asking about eggs. Have you
Yes,
hard boiled eggs? And
you can.
it's a bit. I've tried it. It's not the best. Like you have
No,
to.
it's not. It's not. No. So there's a certain things that the air fryer does have its limitations on. If I was going to make an egg, I would still boil the egg on the
Yeah.
stove. And it's because obviously the way the air circulates in the air fryer, it won't cook all at once. Like if you're submerging an egg in water, the whole egg is surrounded by the liquid and it will cook evenly. In an air fryer, it doesn't quite work like that. Now,
No.
if you're kind of moving around a little bit, you might come out with dodgy results. I have seen it. I seen it. Blew my mind when I seen it, and I was like, "Oh my God, 6 minutes in the air fryer did not come out right." I was like, "Nope,
No,
it
I
won't do
didn't.
it again."
I'm glad you said that. It wasn't just me.
No.
That's amazing. So, would you plan in like like treats? I mean, I know you do some. I know you don't do cakes as much, but you do some amazing puddings, don't you, and desserts.
Do yes.
Do you plan them in as well?
We do, yes. So every single week as a family, we have at least one. Now, sometimes it's shop bought. Like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I do everything from home. Most of the time we try and cook something that we all like. It could be something as simple as cornflake cakes. It could be a homemade brownie. It could be anything. We try and pick one thing as a family that we can make. The kids love making a dessert as well. So we try and pick one thing as a family, and then we'll portion it down and either keep some in the cupboard, some in the freezer for later on and things like that. Because I do think it's really important to have the treaty bits in your diet, because I think the moment you start taking those away, I think you just crave them more.
Yeah,
A diet as a whole, especially when you're looking at a nutritional diet for a family, it shouldn't really be about what you take away. It should be about what you're putting in. So, if we're putting enough amounts of protein and all of the nice fruits and vegetables, and we're introducing that to children, we're not putting pressure on them, but we're offering it to them, because I think that's a big thing as well, then naturally they will want that other stuff less. I'm not saying straight away, but over time, because they're going to be fuller, they're going to be used to eating that sort of diet. So and I just think it's a really nice focus point. I mean, we make a brownie as a family. It's a really nice thing to be able to offer. We knock on the neighbors sometimes and we're like, here, we've made this, because for me it's that little community inside your own house of experimenting and doing new things.
I love that. Absolutely amazing. So, this group you talk about,
Yeah.
can anybody approach you and go, right, I need help? I need
Yeah,
help.
we have families from all occasions. So predominantly, the group is there to support families who are just starting the journey. Some families are well into the journey when they join us. Some families struggle with things like ARFIDs and things like really fussy eating issues. Like it doesn't matter what your background is. If you're passionate about wanting to learn, even if you hate cooking, then kind of this is the right community for you.
Okay, so where can people find you?
So I am on TikTok and Instagram as Catherine Allard Nutrition. The method is called the Seasoned Mum Method, because I think everybody should be and is secretly a seasoned mum.
Yeah, I love that. Do you know what? It's like loads of people like plan like cleaning rotas and they clean that room on that day. But food, people forget about. Well, it's the same thing if you think about it, isn't
It
it?
really is, yeah. It really is. And again, I think it comes back to the fact that there's so many shortcuts. It's easy to push that to the back. You know, think of your life as a mum. You know, your
Yeah,
life is so busy. You have appointments left, right, and centre. You might have sports clubs. You might have, you know, after school clubs. You might have your own work and your own life and your own dramas. And then I think as humans, we try and you know wrap ourselves so that we're not feeling that much pressure. So the first things to go is like, what can I take off my plate? And because the food is the way it is right now, we can go, well, that's gone. Um, you know, there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of solutions out there for cleaning, but not many people have one for food, and it is a real shame.
yeah, it is, which is why I love what you do, mate. You make it, you strip it back, and you give all these overwhelmed families a simple solution, which is gold dust in the modern world
Yeah.
today. Yeah, absolutely.
To be honest, it's quite selfish of me, really, because I think it's just something that I wish I would have had access to when I
Yeah,
first started. I mean, I know a lot of people, you know, quite shocked when I say I didn't know what I was doing, because they say, well, you've worked in food for a long time and, you know, at very nice establishments in and around London. How did you not know? And it was the organisation around it, it was the overwhelm of it. So it's, for selfishly, it's just something, it's a community I wish I would have been a part of back when I started my journey.
yeah. And I think the amazing thing with you as well is you're quite open on social media, so you show it from an authentic kind of place, and women generally resonate with you as well, like just because they're like, oh my god, that's me, that's what I need, you know.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
got me into a bit of trouble in the past. I'm
I
not
know
gonna
what it
lie.
you know what it is though? It's like what I said about Instagram and all the meal prep.
Yeah,
Now I'm not calling anybody who does live this perfect life where they've got everything handled, but you see women on social media, more Instagram than anywhere else, and TikTok, where they've done the school run, they've done the meal prep, they've had all healthy food, they look really glamorous, you know, everything's just tickety boo, and it can make you feel like shit.
it can. It really can. And even the most influential people who you know say that they're open, they're usually not. And a lot of the time, you know, the things you see on Instagram, they're pushing products on you. You know, there's a reason why they're talking to you. I think for women, I can only speak on behalf of a woman because I am a woman, but I feel like the role of a woman over the past 50 to 100 years has changed dramatically. And I think most of the part for the good. You know, I am really glad I get to vote and run marathons, and you know, I get that opportunity to work and have my own business. You know, this is most of my life. But I think what we've done is, as women, we've piled it on. So
Yeah,
the other roles haven't stopped. So yes, some parts of our jobs are easier, like we're not in the back garden with the mandolin anymore and doing things with the washing like that. We can put it in a washing machine, but it still takes time. Like, and I think that's the problem. And then you'll go onto Instagram, say you've had a particularly stressful day, because I don't care who you are, your child has been stressful at some point. They have refused to put the shoes on the right way, or they've kicked off because the brother's been given a different straw to you, or something's happened. And then you open that Instagram and you see that picture perfect life that doesn't exist. It is
no,
just what they show you. And then you get that sinking feeling in your heart, like, what am I doing wrong?
yeah,
I am failing as a human, as a mother. And for me, it is, I've been there. It is heart wrenching. It is, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just people will only show you what they want you to see.
yeah,
And I think women should have these conversations more. I think they shouldn't be as taboo of a subject. If you're struggling as a woman, you know, we're kind of drummed in from an early age that it's a sign of weakness. We cannot be weak. We have to be strong all of the time. That is not true. Like, you should show vulnerability. You should be able to, for men as well, you know, you should be able to be authentically you, no matter the situation, because actually by doing that, you'll help more people than you think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you about our roles changing in the last 100 years. You know, and like you say, it is great. We have more opportunity, but comes with that is more overwhelm.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to regain some of what we used to do, because you know women did used to plan all the
Yeah.
meals, and you know, and we've kind of lost that. So absolutely great.
100%. I think that the biggest thing, like, you know, you see a lot is cook how your grandma used to, but grandma didn't work.
Well,
Grandma
exactly
had
that.
5 children and lived in a house. The bills were paid for,
Yeah.
and grandma just had to make sure the house was tidy. And I know the role is different because they had less technology and things, and they had to go to 5 different shops instead of just Tesco's, but still, grandma didn't work. So yeah, we have to remind ourselves that we are putting more pressure on ourselves. So let's kind of regularly look at our schedules and see what we can delegate and how we can get the kids and the husband or the partner involved, just so that we don't go completely insane.
Yes, right. You've just said it out. It's absolutely
That's
perfect, right? Yeah, absolutely
I can't be the only one. Tell me I'm not the only one.
No, and if you don't follow Cath on socials, you really do, because I love what, not only do you like whip recipes up and everything like that, but you show your weight loss journey as well, which is really inspiring. You share the good and the bad things about, you know, us juggling, and you are the most authentic nutrition coach that I know, which is why I wanted you on here today.
Thank you. It means a lot. It really does.
So, last question. It's always the hardest. Everybody moans about this one. Tell me 3 good things about yourself.
Oh no. 3 good things about myself. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'll never give up. That's probably the first one. Even though I
Good.
feel like I've done a million times, I'm too stubborn to give up. I think I love and care so much. I think it gets me into trouble a lot, but it's kind of is a weakness and a blessing at the same time. Um, I don't know.
The third one's always the hardest. I don't know
It
why.
is. I think it's good, yeah, because you have the 2 that you want to get out there, and then it's like 3 things I like about myself. I think the ability to overcome challenge.
Yeah,
I think this is something that I've deeply had to learn. It's not something that has come particularly easy. But I think now I'm definitely in a better place with that.
absolutely fantastic. Well, I'll post all your links in the description. Thank you for being such an amazing guest. And you really do need to go and check Cath out on social media. She always makes me smile. And your recipes as well are really simple.
Yeah.
Like, you're not using like ingredients that I've never heard of,
No,
which
no,
is
no. I mean,
great.
100%. I think you have to. I remember my mum, actually, she got a recipe book once, and she was like, "What is pomegranate molasses?" And I was like, "Okay." So I went and showed her in the supermarket, and I was like, "Whose recipe book is this?" And I remember it was like recipes for everyday cook, and I was like, "Well, if you're asking what the ingredients are, it's not a recipe book for the everyday cook." So I think it's really important we can go to Tesco's
You know
or
what?
Fairs and get them.
There's loads of them out there, because
Yeah.
I'm quite partial to a recipe book, mate. Right, I get them home, and I bet I've got about 20 I've not even used, because I've read through them and I've gone, I don't even know what that is.
That's it. That's it.
Then like, I'm looking at Tesco and my shop. Tesco don't even sell it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, if Tesco doesn't know, it's not worth having.
Absolutely incredible. So yeah, give Cath a follow. Thank you so much for inspiring me and joining me tonight.
No, thank you very much for having me on. I love talking to you, and yeah, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Take